Hello, I'm Chris Abbott from C64audio.com, and you're listening to the Scene World podcast. And also, I'm Thing on the Spring, and I approve of this message.
Hello, welcome to the Scene World podcast. I'm Joerg and this is AJ. Hi AJ, how are you doing?
Wait, how did that go? Oh man, I forgot how we used to do that. Remember the first runs we had sort of like an inside joke where I'd be like I'm AJ, Joerg's over there, and you'd be like, I'm doing fine, thank you.
I don't remember.
Yeah, because for some reason we did that in the first one because it was kind of a mess when we put it together, and then the second time I actually asked, "How are you?" and you're like, "I'm fine," but I cut it out of the podcast just to make it as weird and awkward as the first one, and I did that for I think the first 5 of them.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, just to be consistent and weird.
Okay, we are weird already.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah.
Today we talk to Peter Reichenbach, but that will come later.
Yes.
And he is the creator of the C128 Remastered.
Not Reloaded. If you look up, as I've mentioned, if you do a Google search for C128RL, you get ceramic cabinet knobs.
Nice.
Which is apparently, that's the part number. If you're into ceramic cabinet knobs, by all means, they're nice. They're a little bit too floral for me. They wouldn't go well in my kitchen, but if you're into that sort of thing, knock your socks off. Nice.
But
okay, so we have some news stuff before we begin.
So start with the news.
Yes, let's do that. I feel like we're backwards today.
No problem.
You started the podcast, and I'm doing the news.
That was intentional.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. All right. First off, we have to talk about it because Billy Mitchell.
Oh yeah,
he
lost his record.
Yeah.
He lost access. He lost everything. He was banned from Twin Galaxies.
And I've looked into it a little bit more since the first few times that we've talked about it, and I was willing to give the benefit of the doubt in the beginning because of what we knew about him and because of them saying that he's not really technologically inclined and therefore wouldn't be using MAME because he wouldn't know how to use MAME. Having looked at some of this stuff, it's really difficult to defend him at this point.
You mentioned in a private chat that even the King of Kong movie, where he sent in a VHS tape, you said that it looked like poorly sticked together at the place where the high score was. Right.
It's so weird because if you look at, and there's videos online. There's lots of videos online that are taking this stuff apart and analyzing it all. If you look at the VHS tape that he sent in, it shows, it's supposed to be a direct stream of the game, and being VHS, there's like some artifacts and some fuzz and whatnot. Like it looks like the tracking is off or so, but it is right over the score, like it right covers the score. And then when it goes away, the score has jumped up a ton, and it just and we had reached out to obviously Billy Mitchell, but he's not gonna. I don't think he's talking to anybody. We also reached out to Richie Knuckles, who...
We also reached out to Twin Galaxies themselves.
Yeah, right.
And they all said they don't want to talk about it.
Nobody wants to talk about this, and I think that's telling in itself. The other video that they had, which is where he gets the high score in Donkey Kong and then Donkey Kong Jr. And it's him and I don't remember who the other guy is. And they make a big show of, all right, he just got the high score here. We're going to take this board out and put in another board. And it's weirdly acted and weirdly lit. And if you look, they take out one board and then they put the exact same board right back in. Like, the whole thing was like, there's no reason to go through all that. If you're really doing it, it's like they went above and beyond to be like, look, we are using actual boards. You know, whereas if he was just using an actual board, you wouldn't think that would be something that you would need to show.
Check. Yeah.
You know, but the thing is with the whole thing is that.
Okay, let's be honest.
Yes.
If you are into arcade games
right.
since your childhood, if you played and figured out the perfect game of Pac-Man and
right.
Donkey Kong and found the glitch and so on,
yes,
and then you tell people like all the 30 years you had no idea what you were doing, that's totally unbelievable.
Right.
I think he has more knowledge about computers, electronics, and all that stuff than anybody would imagine.
Oh, certainly. Absolutely.
So probably he knows how to cut VHS tapes, and probably he figured out, okay, let's do a disturbance here, and then people will think it's a disturbance in the tape.
VHS tape, though, I feel like you've seen King of Kong?
Sure, many times.
Right. This is where the VHS tape comes into play, because the other dude in the movie is trying to get the score at the very end. You know, Billy Mitchell, the tape arrives from him and it makes him champion again. And it feels like, and I don't have anything corroborating this, so this is just me talking nonsense maybe, but it feels like this was manufactured to create tension and drama in the movie.
Nobody knows.
Right, but it's, you know, it looks to the level of editing that it is, it looks like it could have been put together just for that movie. And it even shows in the movie, I think it's Walter Day, is sitting on the phone being like, why does the score jump like this here? And why does it do this? And why does it do that? And then he gets out the phone and he's like, it's legit. So, but that makes Twin Galaxies complicit in this whole thing. And I feel like the only reason that a lot of this is being dealt with now is because somebody else caught them.
Yeah. Yeah, we had the discussion whether Chase Hall would have done it either way or not.
I doubt it. I really doubt. You know, he's making a thing where we're going to try to clean up Twin Galaxies and we're going to fix all these problems and this and that. And I think that had nobody found this, had nobody brought this up, they would not have taken it upon themselves to review all of these scores and go after this. They're doing it because they got caught. Because Billy Mitchell was buddies with Walter Day. Billy Mitchell was providing financial support to Twin Galaxies. So, I mean, you know, he's so intertwined with the thing that, yeah, they're going to want him to be, you know, they're friends. So, and it's, you know, it's I don't know. It feels very crooked, kinda, and I feel like we need a better system for keeping, because Twin Galaxies is what the Guinness Book of World Records goes on as far as video game scores go, and I think we need to stop that and have, like everything else, have a Guinness judge be there for it rather than just take their word for it. That's how I feel about with this, and I don't care. Video game scores, I don't. It doesn't make any difference to me. But if you want to be official, and if you want to be fair and impartial about it, then you sort of have to do that.
Well, you forget that in the 80s, I mean, you shouldn't forget that in the 80s, those were professional gamers. They actually got money.
Oh yeah, right.
Based on that, so it was a way of living, you know.
Right. Billy Mitchell.
You know, Todd Rogers, for example, who's another pro player.
Mm-hmm.
He, you know, and Billy Mitchell was actually flown in by Namco.
Yeah.
To talk to the creator of Pac-Man and talk about all that. So people actually were financially supported.
Oh God, yeah. Imagine just from the time of King of Kong until now. When did King of Kong come out?
2007.
2007. Okay, so 11 years. All right? Just think of how much money Billy Mitchell has made from appearances and TV shows and whatever else based on a fake score in those last 11 years. You know, so I mean he's definitely they've definitely profited from this. And I'm seeing a lot of stuff too. You know, Richie Knuckles was very verbal about defending Billy Mitchell.
Yeah, you know, I talked to him. He said, like, I will get the real board out, and I will prove to everybody that this wasn't fake. Right. And he is also in the scene called the King of Arcades because he's refurbishing every arcade looking like right from the factory.
Yeah, he
knows a lot of technical stuff.
Yeah,
he does the Kong-offs.
Mm-hmm. He was super verbal. I'm going to prove we're going to get to the bottom of this, and then suddenly we're not talking about it. And that right there is very telling to me that he went from we're going to show the world that this is cool to being I'm not talking about it. And I understand that he's your friend and not that Richie Knuckles is your friend, but I understand that Richie Knuckles and Billy Mitchell are good buddies. But you know, it's a shame, the whole thing. It's just very
It's also poor for Richie Knuckles because if that is true, and Billy Mitchell and Todd Rogers were faking, you know, then it's poor for Richie because he didn't know,
right,
and he believed this was all made up to badmouth Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell, and now. He's finding out, okay, the judges were right.
Yeah, and he's going out on a limb for these guys, and it's backfiring. It's making him look bad.
Yeah, how disappointing is that? You know?
Right. So that's where we stand with that.
But that's the first. No, I mean that's the thing that I often said since the beginning. If you were so much involved in arcades and stuff, you cannot say I have no idea about how computer works.
Right?
You know?
Yeah. No. There's no way.
You know, it's like I like talking English every day and saying like I forgot all my language.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that doesn't make sense. You know.
Right. So, but again, even if it was. Even if he didn't understand the logistics of how it works, that doesn't prevent him from knowing that, I can someone else can stitch together different games from MAME, and we can, make a winning tape that way. I would love to know the backstory behind it all. I would love to know if it has anything to do with the movies, because. And I feel like if the movie was responsible for it, right? If this was like a movie producer saying we need to make this tape to make some dramatic, action for the movie, then suddenly it's accepted by Guinness, and now you're committed. Now you can't come back and just say, "Oh, we just made that up for the movie." Now you're all in, so you got to keep up this charade.
But on the other hand, also all the records after the movie,
right?
Were also deleted.
Yeah, right. Well,
so
then that's an interesting thing too. Is that they have expunged all of his stuff from there, which I don't know if that's necessarily fair because sure he cheated on this and that, but if there's a verified high score, then I don't know. It just feels if you have a verified high score. And then you cheated on the one after that. The verified high score still stands. I feel like.
So you think Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell shouldn't have been removed?
I think that I think that they maybe should have been removed, but not necessarily banned. Because now, even if Billy Mitchell goes and gets the highest score ever in any game, he can never be counted again in the records or in Twin Galaxies because he's been banned from the thing. So, and that's not... I guess that serves as punishment for cheating, but at the same time, it feels like you're... I don't know.
That also means that the money source is cut off for those things.
Right.
I guess no show will invite Todd Rogers, who was also called the king of gaming, or Billy Mitchell. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Billy Mitchell anyway, I feel like still has enough of a kind of a cult of personality surrounding him where he can still make something of this, even being banned from Twin Galaxies. He's got enough friends in the industry and enough
true
clout.
But this thing hit big. It even hit mainstream. There was a big article about it in the New York Times.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's all over the place because it's such a high profile.
And there will no BBC, no New York Times, no talk show or whatever in the USA saying, "Hey, let's invite Billy Mitchell." That would mean they lose their credibility.
Right.
If they invite a cheater.
Yeah.
That will not happen anymore. Sure, he will still have his friends in the community and in the industry, but there will be no mainstream.
And he's still got his
media.
hot sauce. He's got his hot sauce empire to fall back on.
That's also true. Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on from this.
Well, anyway, it's interesting that a person like Billy Mitchell made it into pop culture.
Yeah, well,
into mainstream.
Yeah.
How many people can say that? Yeah, well,
it's a shame that his legacy has been tarnished like this. Because he's, he is what he is. He's played lots of games and got some scores.
Interesting character. Yeah.
Right.
Even Todd Rogers, I tried to contact on Facebook, but didn't reply to me.
And right there, when you don't want to, if you're accused of something and you don't want to talk about it or you refuse to go and talk about it, that's kind of telling in and of itself. I think that
it's not making the situation better.
He went on one podcast, and that podcast kissed his ass relentlessly.
You mean Billy Mitchell or Todd Rogers?
Billy Mitchell. After the accusations came out, he went on one podcast where they were completely obsequious to him, like he was, king of all media. And that was his response. They were like, "Did you ever use MAME?" And he's like, "No, I've never used MAME." "Okay, I can't believe why people would think you used MAME." There was no critical, conversation about it at all. It was just, you're an awesome guy and, thank you for being on our show, and that might be it. But anyway, so getting back to things.
Okay.
So the Ultimate 64 Ultimate rather, is out, and you've gotten it, yes?
Yes, I'm really happy with it. As I said later on in the interview, it's really cool because you can just pop in a USB stick and update it and get some bug fixed.
Right.
Wow.
How's it, so you've actually got it. You have it and you've hooked it up and it's functional.
Yes, it is.
How does it work? How does it stack up next to a Real 64?
Well, the SID FPGA is not sounding as good from the filters as the original one, but that is probably something that's going as the last thing because. Yeah. First, some things had to be fixed, like timing for the floppy drive, Mm-hmm. And the only thing the Ultimate 64 doesn't have yet is the user port. That will be an additional cable to hook up later. Right. But since the RF output and so on is not used, that is probably where I will cut in a hole in the case and stick it in there, you know.
Does it have Wi-Fi? Because I remember reading something saying it was going to have Wi-Fi modem built in.
No. It has an Ethernet.
Oh.
It has the same Ethernet like the Ultimate 2 1541. You know.
See, that user port is a deal breaker for me because I use my user port frequently.
Yeah, that is why he didn't get rid of it completely, but it will be an additional interface cable to add later on.
Right.
Yeah. What do you use it for?
Oh, Wi-Fi modems mostly.
Okay.
There's also I believe there's an EEPROM programmer that a EEPROM burner that uses it. I don't know for certain. I don't have that. I've wanted to get one for a long time, but I don't have one yet.
Yeah,
also,
of course there are things, printers, for example.
Yes, printer interfaces. Yes, that also uses them.
Centronics interface, which is the most known one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've got amongst all these Wi-Fi modems. This is the one by Nick.
I got one too. Yeah.
Oh, you got one by Nick?
Yeah.
I love his. Is in all honesty, this one does the C64.net Nick. This thing does way more, but
it does.
There's way more options for it, but Nick's just works better. Like Nick's, you plug in and you don't need to worry about it. It's just like it just works really, really freaking good.
Looking where I put it. Yeah. Didn't try it yet.
Wow.
I should.
It's awesome.
In May I have a long holiday, and then I will use it.
Okay.
Yeah, here I got it too.
Sweet. Yeah, I highly recommend. Not that this is actually, I'm gonna be cutting this part out, but yeah. This one has the 64-net Wi-Fi there's software that works with it that gives you like an IRC client, and you can download software off of FTP sites with this one directly with this modem. But this one does not work as easily as this. This one's got way more. There's like switches and jumpers and crap on it that you gotta worry about. Nick's is just like you plug it in and you go and you're good.
Interesting. Yeah, I will try it out soon. Don't worry.
And none of them, I've also got this one here.
That one I got too. Yeah. That's actually the first one I got.
Yeah, this is the first one I got too. They can all do 9600 baud, but Nick's is the only one that can do 9600 without having an issue. Like, I got all kinds of garbles and line noise and junk if I do 9600 with either of the other ones, but Nick's can do it like nothing.
Well, I mean, Nick is the expert in network. I mean, he has done strike term, which everybody relies on nowadays.
He also did CCGMS, the updated version.
And that's funny because he's like, Andrew, like, oh, I'm not that good.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not that great a coder. But dude, guy's amazing. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Nick is amazing, and he totally undersells himself.
Yeah.
Anyway,
back to the news.
Yeah, we were talking about the Ultimate 64. So
yeah.
So you're so no user port, but everything else works nicely. And what's the video out on that? Is that HDMI or is that S video? Or?
Yeah, HDMI or the normal video. I actually connected it via Chroma Luma to my monitor.
Oh, nice.
And occasionally I use a CRT TV over composite. I'm not using the HDMI actually.
It's got the 1541 Ultimate built in.
Yes.
Which is one of those things that everyone loves. I don't have one.
That's true.
Now that you've got that, you want a 7-year-old
one, but I use it for tape remastering mainly.
That is the one thing that I could use it for, because there are certain things that all I can find all I can get is them on T64 files, and you can't do shit with that.
You can use Dear Master from Style, and you can actually take the T64
I don't have a Windows computer.
Well, but you can install Windows on yours.
I can, but I don't.
Then you should.
I have to get another hard drive for mine because.
Then you should. Anyway, that's the way I'm using it.
Yeah.
And how I transfer data, and I'm doing that since 2005. So since 13 years, I'm actually using Warp 64, and I'm using the RRNet.
Okay.
Connected to the Retro Replay. And that's also one of the news, the RNet 3, which can also be used separately without a motherboard to put it onto.
Yeah.
Actually, there was released a firmware update to add some features, which is kind of interesting because originally the RRNet was not meant to be updatable for the user.
Right.
So that thing changed now. Yes.
So what? I've heard of the RRNet quite a bit. What does that do specifically?
Well, it actually is it's actually a network interface card that was designed by Adam Dunkels.
Okay.
Which is also part of the Contiki operating system.
Okay.
Yeah. Which uses Pico TSCP IP and Pico IP, and that Pico IP TSCP IP protocols were the starting point of Internet of Things. So Adam Dunkels used Contiki and this Pico IP, TCP IP, and Pico IP as a starting point for the Internet of Things. That is why Adam Dunkels is seen as the inventor of Internet of Things. He's the guy who made it big. And I did an interview with him once for SceneWorld, which we can link. It's an audio interview over Skype. And there he explained where this all is coming from. The RRNet is actually something that Adam Dunkels developed, and Jens Schoenfeld, which with individual computers actually manufactures. Okay. And the first and second version were requiring a basic board a driver board to run on, and that would be the Retro Replay or the MCC, and then the third version is a standalone version, but it can be still connected to the clock port of the RRNet if you have one. Okay. And now they added the functionality of allowing you to update the firmware and getting new features to it. And that was just announced by Protovision yesterday, who are also selling it as a reseller next to Jens Schoenfeld. So Jens Schoenfeld actually made an entry in his wiki of iComp where you can get the manual and all that information and also the firmware update. Right. Yeah, so other news. The Retro Online Store, IM8-bit, announced that he closes the CO UK store.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, and they mentioned it. It's for a good reason, for a positive reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they sold it as a good thing because now they are doing one thing. They are moving the European stuff to local retail stores. Yeah, so you can actually be a local retail store for old, vinyls, records,
right?
Vinyls and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can say, okay, I also want to sell the new old games, and then you can get a partnership for IM8-bit and sell their stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. On the other hand, I don't think it's a positive thing because, you see, now they are only shipping via I am 8-bit USA. That means for Europeans, well, you have to go to the customs and you have to talk to them and getting your stuff and pay VAT and all that stuff. And that was getting rid of because you got your stuff from the UK and then everything was fine. So for me, it's a downer. On the other hand, as we know, the UK is leaving the EU in 2 years. So it's not like it's a big change because in 2 years, you wouldn't have the advantage anymore anyway. Depends on how you look at it. Yeah. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think that a reason to allow partnerships in local stores is a good reason to just shut off the European part of your shipping company.
Right, yeah.
I don't think that's a good reason.
No, neither do I. But
yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, we see how it goes. I mean, they are making good stuff. I mean, this Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Edition was pretty good. Can't complain about it. Yeah.
So let's take a little trip over to a little trip out of the C64 scene into the Sinclair ZX Spectrum scene.
Okay, what's the news about that?
Okay, well, Rick Dickinson, one of the designers, actually passed away very recently.
Seriously?
Yes. The Spectrum was designed by him. He died on April 24th.
Wow.
So that was sad news. This, however, was so the ZX Spectrum people posted an obituary on the Indiegogo page with a copyright at the bottom. And it turns out that they copy and pasted that from some other guy's obituary of Rick Dickinson that was written for BitTech. The guy's name was Gareth Halfacre. Gareth Halfacre? I'm not sure how you pronounce that last name. But he tweeted about it, saying, mind telling me why I'm reading my words on the sad passing of Rick Dickinson, written for BitTech in an Indiegogo post with your copyright at the bottom. So even when dealing with this nonsense, they seem to be... they can't even... I don't know.
Write that their own verse.
They can't even write their own obituary for the guy that designed the thing that they're trying to make. They've now said that as of in February that they were looking at an estimated delivery date for shipping units to backers in April 2018.
Which is now.
Which is actually, well, no, it's over. It's May now.
Not yet. Just a few days.
It's May 15th.
Sure. Okay.
So, but that same day that they announced that, though, the BBC reported that Indiegogo was going to be appointing a collections agency to get money back that was paid to them if it was not released by the end of May.
Yeah, they actually were sued, weren't they?
Yeah, they were sued, yeah. They were sued a small claims court in January 2018. And they lost it because the judge ruled there was an implied contract of sale, so they had to reimburse the people suing them. So this is... But now they're also talking about what they're going to be shipping is not the original ZX Vega Plus that they had promised, but the version 2 of the thing.
A better version.
I don't know if it's a better version, but it's not what people were paying for.
Okay.
I don't know what the difference.
Oh, you just sent me the Billy Mitchell podcast link again.
I didn't send that again. I sent that way before.
No, I just received the message that you sent me.
Oh, okay.
It was a bit of a delay then.
It was a little bit of a delay, yeah. So the ZX Spectrum drama is ongoing with this, and it's just it's so weird watching it unfold because it's such a weird little you talk to a guy like Peter, that we're going to be talking to in a minute, who is designing a board for the 128 based largely on his love of the machine. He's not doing it for money. He's not doing it. He didn't do an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter. He's not trying to get anything really off of it. He's even talking about releasing it open source, so anyone can make one. And then you got these dudes who grabbed a ton of money through Indiegogo, and now have dicked people around seemingly for a couple of years, I guess, and haven't produced anything. And now that they're being threatened with collections, now it's like, oh, we'll ship something by the end of April. And as far as I know, nothing's being shipped yet. And April's over.
There's a lot of drama going on.
Yeah.
Twin Galaxies, Highscore drama, Tell Me More Audio CD drama von Jeruntel, Keycaps drama von Factor.
Right. Anyway, so Peter is right over here waiting for us to start talking. So let's go and talk to him and find out all about the 128 Remastered.
So today we are actually talking to Peter Reichenbach, and he is a Swiss guy that actually came into the picture on Forum 64, actually, announcing a prototype he's working on, and it's called the 128 Remastered.
Not reloaded, because when you look up 128 RL, you find ceramic cabinet knobs. As I discovered before we started.
I mean, if you're looking for 128 RM, you finding somehow Tesla parts.
Oh, okay.
That's good. That's good to know. So, welcome to the podcast, Peter.
Yes.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no problem. Yes, well, so let's start a bit actually with how you got involved into the retro scene, and why did you actually start making a 128 prototype where everybody else is working on the Commodore 64 and actually ignoring the 128?
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot of that is actually not necessarily making a redo of the 128, but I think, yeah, why not? However, to the backstory, that makes a bigger picture why and so. In my childhood, I got the C64C with the 1541-2 drive. That gone somehow, I don't know anymore, because I was so young. Mm-hmm. But after that, my friend back then had like a 128, and I was like, whoa, more RAM and stuff. I was like, oh, that's like a really short version of it.
I was kind of the same. I was kind of the same way. I had started with the 64C and a 1541-2, just like you.
Yeah.
and I wanted to update to. My big thing was I wanted an Amiga. I was dying to get an Amiga, but by the time that I had managed to save up enough money to get an Amiga, Commodore had gone south, and you couldn't get them anywhere. At least in the U.S., they were pretty sparse to begin with, and once Commodore was out of the picture, you couldn't get them anywhere. And a friend of mine had actually grown up with a 128 and a 1571, and that ended up being my upgrade, which I used for another 5 years, because the 128 actually adds quite a bit of functionality to the 64.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It sounds like a same. So then, like 10 years, nothing. I did not own any kind of 8-bit retro stuff. However, I owned an NES. I do still have them somewhere. I don't know. And after that, I bought an Amiga 600, and I was like, wait a second. This one is much smaller than the C64, and I was like, and then my mind kind of played with that, how it could be possible put the 128 in this small kind of space, probably. And I recently discovered it is a little bit more complicated than that.
Well, especially with the 128 was such a what did Bill Hurd call it? Like the motherboard that never should have been made or something. It was because it's 3 different computers all mashed into one. No, that was the Mega 65 guys that called it the motherboard that never should have been made. Because it's it's got the Z80 processor, or the Z80 for you European guys. The Z80 processor on it. It's got the 128 native mode. It's got the 64 mode, and it's all kind of crammed together in the most inconvenient way possible onto a motherboard. So I can imagine it's got to be quite a complicated undertaking to translate that to. Is this emulation based that you're looking at, or FPGA?
No, neither of both.
Oh,
it is like a real 128 crammed on the smallest space possible.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so more like the Jens Schoenfeld C64 Reloaded.
Some kind of way, yes, more like the Mark 1.
Okay.
Yeah, because on the picture you can actually see the chips, the ICs, are looking really much like the original ones.
Mm-hmm. But all the ICs is under the sockets, also the logic chips.
Okay. Okay.
Interesting.
See. Okay. So I'm interested to hear what is your goal with that. I mean, on the forum you said you actually made a little modification on it, so there will be some you said there will be some different outputs. And
I mean the Forum 64 forum or community have quite a big suggestion and pleas to me to convert it. Actually, the photos what you see is actually for that you must cut out a big portion of the board of the casing itself. And the community said, can you do that? That is like the vanilla C64 board style. So I kind of already converted back to it, and using the audio port for right now for S video, but I will somehow later on do it for HDMI if I get that somehow work.
That would be good. Are you looking for the HDMI output for both the 40 and 80 columns? Because my big gripe with the 128, and I've got one, but I can't use the 80 columns I can use it, but in black and white because it doesn't have finding an RGB monitor that doesn't cost $1 million.
High.
Yeah, right. It's almost impossible to find a screen for it. So you're limited to either just black and white or not using 80 columns at all.
So right now the state right now is both signals going through the S video output. You can switch between that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you wrote there would be a switch on the right side of the board.
Yeah, a couple of, but that is gone because I must keep the underside or the case itself so as is.
Okay, so you changed your mind based on the feedback already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, if you look at others, for example, the Ultimate 64 that Gideon Schweitzer from the Netherlands just released, you will have to cut out a hole too in the back because the user port is missing, and there will be an additional cable for it, an adapter for it, and to make space for it, you have to cut out a hole, because at the user port, there's actually right now HDMI and USB ports on that place. So even if you decided to go for cutting out some pieces of the case, you will not be the only one. But as I understand, people are purists. They don't want to make modifications.
It's kind of, it is like both. They say don't do modification. On the other hand, says, oh wow, you got the OG C64 without the warranty seal. They still warranty seal in that, and they say, you must open it, you must put heat sinks on it, and so on. So that's going in somehow in both ways.
Yeah.
Actually, there is also somehow the replacement parts for the case itself, also a new reproduction.
Oh yes, there's the C64C cases. You mean the reproduction cases, right?
Exactly.
There she is. I was wondering when she would come back.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm all about. I've seen this argument that we shouldn't modify, or that we should, and I mean, I've made the argument before that everyone's C64 is kind of. Everyone has a custom machine in some way. You know, you add things to it, you take things away. Mine's got, you know, I've done so much nonsense to this thing. It's got a different label. I changed the LED just because I could, you know, because I felt like having an orange LED in it. You know, I've got the SID-FX in there with holes drilled in the top for the switches and whatnot. I don't see anything wrong with modifying it, because it's at the heart of it. It's still a C64, and it's not. It's not like, you know, you're adding little things, but it's not like you're changing the spirit of the machine. And there's enough of these things where, you know, if I drill a hole in a case, it's not gonna adversely impact the value of all the other cases left, because there's millions of these things.
Back in the forum, I referred to car guys, because there is also car guys there. They want a car original. There is some that improve it, and there's others that are completely modified.
Yeah, that's my other go-to analogy, because I'm a Jeep guy, and everybody has, you know, nobody's Jeep is stock. They all add things to it. They all change things about it. They put things in. They put stickers on it, or lift it, or bigger tires. You know, and it's, but you know, and no one's complaining that like, oh man, you ruined it because it's not stock anymore. You know, it's about customizing it and making it your own.
There is probably guys.
Well, I mean, if you look back at it, even Commodore themselves did constant modifications on the machines. I mean, if you open the machines, you will see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I bought like 3 or 4 months ago, like so scrap 6 or 7 Commodore C64s. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
That was like mess.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I have a French Z64, and the French Z64, they just used a transformer board for CCAM signaling, and they just did it like putting wires on the back, hand soldered on the board, like a little kid did it, you know, not like professionally in a factory. Yeah. And they sold it to France, and that is what you would get as a French person. You would get a hand soldered piece of mess, and you would pay money for it, and dare you to not open it, because it would totally look crap inside, you know.
Also void your warranty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, even though the 128s had kind of that customized thing. There's that if you look at the board on a 128, and I was actually I saw Bill Hurd talk about this at the Retro Computer Festival. Yeah, that's what it was. last year. There's a wire that goes from the Z80 and it goes around the bottom and back up at the top.
Yeah.
And
I know about that.
Yeah, and that was to fix a problem that maybe happened on 1 out of every 50 machines. But just to be sure of it, it goes where it goes. But where that is on machine to machine, because the guy that was showing it to him, the wire went over this way and down that way and connected. And he's like, that's not how we made it. But in looking online, it could be anywhere. You know, it's mine happens to go down along the bottom and go to where it's supposed to go. But I've seen versions of it where it's not glued down at all, or it goes around this chip up here and back down, and you know, there was such a, I hate to say half-assed, but Commodore was really half-assed about making these things.
I mean, what I also heard, this happens only at the CPM mode and only 20% of the time.
Right.
It's crashing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There also somebody said that in the forum, and I was like, you know, this connection is actually in my board like not more like an inch long.
Yeah.
So this is going to be, you're looking at a direct bolt-in, sort of like the Reloaded, in that you can pop it into the 128's case in place of the original motherboard. Which is great, because I could use a new motherboard, because I drilled through that, whatever that thing is. Maybe, you know, since you're a 128 guy, maybe you can tell me what this is. Hang on one second.
Oh gosh.
Jetzt darfst du gleich noch Fehleranalyse machen.
Oh no, I must go.
So, I'm an idiot, and I was drilling a hole in my case for my 128, and I drilled through it's a little ring with some wires around it.
That thing.
Yeah, and
I'm actually more expert on a DCR because it's a little bit other style of a board.
Okay.
But that is the coil of on the power side.
Okay, yeah, because I asked when I was at Vintage Computer Festival, I actually asked Bill Hurd about what to do about that, like, because I don't even know what that thing is called. And I'm trying to figure out, maybe I can replace it, but I don't even know what to look for if I'm buying parts. And when I mentioned it to him, his response was, "We made millions of those. Just get another one."
Wow.
So, which is what I did. But I still have this board, and if I can salvage it, because everything else on it is great, just that one stupid thing I drilled through and wrecked it. And there's a great video of it. We haven't done the SidFX video yet. Although it is in one of our podcasts, and then I think that Retrocram retweeted us. Or
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they
me
did.
drilling through and going,
Why are you drilling on your board?
well, I was drilling a hole in the back because I was putting the SidFX in this thing, and I was putting the audio output thing there. And being impatient, I was trying to show video of me modifying everything in order to put this thing in. But being impatient as I am, I didn't bother to take the board out of the case before I drilled through it. So I drilled through it, and then it goes, you know, as you're getting through it, and right through that thing. And I'm just like, in the video, you see me go, oh, fuck. And then I'm trying to, like, figure out what I did, and I never even tried powering it on again, and I just went and put it in a different machine. But
can this coil be replaced?
I'm sure it can. I just don't know. I don't know what to look for to buy a new one, because I look
Peter,
for
what's
like
called
roundy wire thing.
I looking right now the schematics for the right board, and this is connected to the 9-volt AC.
Okay.
And also to the 5-volt DC. So you need actually both. One for at least for the TOD clock, and 5-volt is says itself.
Yeah, because
also you need that.
yeah, right. And I look for parts online, but it's like I'm looking. I don't know what to look for. So it's just, you know, roundy wire thing or whatever, and of course nothing shows up because, I'm making up words.
If it's a ferrite core, so it can be a ferrite bread itself.
Okay.
So actually you can just hot wire it.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's gone.
Oh, nice. That is awesome then, because I thought about that,
actually,
but I didn't want to take a chance.
Actually, if you have a C64, the smaller board, it has the exact same core on it.
Okay. I have one of those. I actually have a couple of those.
So now you know what it's called, and now you can get a replacement.
Yes. And I also know that I can just bypass it and hotwire it, which is pretty nifty as well.
I think.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah, if it blew up and I get somehow a message, then I just ignore that.
Yeah. Well, I'll be sure to make a video because my electronic failures make the best videos. So, but yeah, I mean this is already
kind of funny.
This is already one of the most productive podcasts we've had because I've learned things.
That's kind of funny because yesterday I played Giant Sisters and the thing just shut off.
Really?
I was like, oh. And it was like probably not the power supply because I replaced that. I made a new one, so I don't know. Huh. That's going on the list
Yeah.
of doing things.
Nice.
Like upgrading my 3D printer. It's on the list.
So actually I wonder this C128 remastered. So it will be like the C64 Reloaded, just a board, and people have to supply their ICs themselves to put into.
Yes.
I like that idea.
I kind of probably wouldn't have to demand to put everywhere the correct chip for PAL or NTSC guys.
Okay.
I mean, where should I find so much ICs?
Right. Huh. Now, and you were also talking about how you were thinking that compared to the A600, which is a little tiny case, how you could put the 128 into a smaller case. And are there plans to put it in a smaller housing, or is this just going to be the bolt-in replacement for the board in the main case?
The first problem is what actually people also asked me why I don't do a direct replacement for the C64 C128. Oh god! and the answer is it needs at least 3 different boards to make.
Right.
And that's gonna kinda heavy. Doing 3 boards parallel point.
But it will still have all the modes. So it will still have the CPM mode, the C64 mode, and the 128.
Yes.
And this all in the form factor of a C64 case. So then I wonder what will you do about the keyboard, because we know the C128 has more keys.
This was also one of the bigger questions. I kind of must translate the key map from C64 to C128 because it's not the same. So when I'm using like Atmel chip or something similar, then I could just add some shortcut. Then you could have the same key as the 128, except for probably for numpad and the upper arrow case. They will be probably gone.
Okay. What about taking putting a USB port on it and then allowing the hookup of regular?
This is also the people was requested from me. that I somehow add a USB port, or should I make an adapter that they can use the DCR or D keyboard?
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I kinda like the idea of also being able to put it in a original 128 case and say connecting the original keyboard on it.
Right.
Alternatively, I would totally support having two connectors, one for the C64 keyboard and one for the 128 keyboard.
Mm-hmm. The
Because
128 keyboard is one of the best keyboards that was ever made, in my opinion. But they're hard to find, though.
I have like 4 of those. And I have only 2 DCRs. Well, the other problem is with the keyboard. The connector is a quite massive piece of junk.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys know I can't cut the case.
Right.
So I somehow must make another junky box for it. It's probably also not a very great solution.
Well,
I also wonder how progressed is this prototype. So, are you going to release it like this year, or do you think it's going to happen next year? How far is it progressed actually?
Wait, I must Google that you can understand how fast I work. I call it, or it is called, the Wolf time. And it kind of also represents how I work.
Okay.
When I look so back.
So you mean like years?
No, not that far. But I was like, I said in the forum that I kind of give the board to manufacturing end of this month.
Okay.
Oh, that's pretty close.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. more like middle of May or something like that.
Okay.
It's an interesting link, like Valve time October 97, actual time September 98. That reminds me of ICQ back in the days, where the ICQ team announced the new version is coming out soon, which meant a year and a half later.
That reminds me of you and me discussing when we're going to get the podcast edited and released, and I'm like, we'll get it done in 2 days, and then 4 days later, and I'm like, and you're like, okay, where is it? And it's like, another day.
So will I be able to afford it, or will it be very, very expensive? That's also the other point.
Yeah, this is also another great question. I don't know. I mean, I must see how much it cost after, how much is the demand after that.
And as podcasters, will we get a free copy to review?
Why didn't I write it in the invitation? We only invite you if we get a free copy of the item. Oh my god!
I mean, Joerg invited me, so I could send only Joerg one copy.
That's the problem. Joerg gets all the swag. We don't get it. The rest of us don't get anything.
Well, you got the Commodore phone.
Yeah, after you had your mitts all over it. I got it as a hand-me-down.
Well, but that wasn't my fault. They packaged it wrong. Yeah. So
no, they didn't package it wrong. They just never sent it.
That's also true. Yeah, we are sending you 2 units, and we only got 1. Yeah. So. Who knows? Who knows what happened? What happened in Italia? Right. So actually, you don't know
so
yet.
For a price, do you have a general idea? Like, are we talking maybe sub 200 euros or above that? And I'm going euros because we're.
I think it will be a little bit more.
Okay.
because there is way more components on the board itself as the reloaded MK1. Also, I want to add the coolers or heatsinks to the stuff to prevent death.
Okay.
Right.
So I don't know. I really don't want to go over 300. I really don't want.
Okay.
Somehow in between death.
Okay. But this will be for a fully populated board with chips and heat sinks and everything already installed.
Yeah. Yes, except Commodore 128 specified MOS chips.
Right. So.
I see. So it's like half already put into the ICs, and the other half you have to supply your own.
Right, but that would be roughly on par with the other. Because if you get a reloaded and it's got most of the chips in it already, you're going to be paying more than the base price for it if you had to populate with your own.
Yeah. I also got one of the reloaded, which was limited, and the Mark I was limited. And the first units you could get, they would come with a SID chip and a PLA, and all the other sockets were empty. So you had like 2-3 ICs already on it.
Does the reloaded have a PLA?
Yeah, it has.
I thought the reloaded was I thought the reloaded was like a modification of the shortboard.
Yeah. The Mark II has no PLA.
Okay, because the shortboard has no PLA.
No, that's not true. The shortboard has a super PLA. It's a different PLA, but it has a PLA.
Well, it's got that MMU chip that handles the PLA stuff, but it does a lot of other stuff along with the PLA stuff.
Yeah, but it's still called super PLA. I know because mine is broken, and I just bought a spare one.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
That thing went wrong on that chip went wrong on a shortboard. I've never heard of that going bad on a shortboard.
I know, but I think mine is because it has the accept symptoms.
Oh.
So I guess mine is broken. Even if I read everywhere, it's very unlikely. But I'm the lucky guy. I'm always getting the unlikely errors.
That's not your Aldi 64, is it?
No. It's a It's a shortboard.
It's also broken.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. It's funny, this summer the summer didn't really start, and already two C64 died on me while I was using it. I'm like, oh my god.
It's a sign.
I know. Yeah, maybe I should have used the 128 instead.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Peter, any other plans for your prototype?
What exactly mean you by that?
Well, are there going to be so this is just basically it's a direct replacement of a 128, and you were saying something about maybe adding some features to it that the original didn't have.
Also, what is already coming is SD to IC.
Okay, awesome.
I kinda in this weekend reworked the amplifier for the SID chips.
Okay. What is that? What effect does that have?
I mean, the transistor amplifier did actually a really great job, and there is nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But you can't add like a big speaker to it because it has somehow AC problems and can damage the chip itself.
Right.
So and the chip what I want to populate with it is some there's a couple of safety stuff in it, and actually when this chip breaks, the amplifier chip, when it blows, then it's like at least $5 replacement. So it's more like the safety feature than the amplifier feature.
Okay.
That I did.
Okay, cool.
I actually didn't know that you could break something on a 128 like that.
No, it's general. Actually, you can break a SID chip with it if you connect the wrong sound input.
Yeah. Well, there's also no fuse in the 128 like there is in the 64 that buffers it against stuff, which is totally different. But I mean, yeah.
And I mean, an amplifier chip, a little bit more modern, probably nicer. I hope.
Well, that is why you make the difference between vintage and retro.
Yeah.
Vintage is retro but modified with modern components.
That's what you call a resto mod. That's what. That's another more car culture stuff. That's when you take a classic car and you restore it, but with modern stuff. So it'll look like an old '48 Packard or whatever, but it's got the touch screen and the
fuel injection.
Right, exactly. Right, fuel injection and modern engines and components.
Yeah.
So I also wondered, you came out with this announcement quite late. So you didn't start the announcement at an early stage. Is it because you didn't want to disappoint people's expectations, or is it like you didn't want so much feedback and then being demotivated and going in a different direction with your project? I just wonder.
I mean, it would be more like the pressure. Right now, it's like since almost 2 weeks that I announced that, and I feel the pressure slowly goes down. Because when I announced that, I was like, oh God. People bombing me with emails and also the forum, and wow.
Yeah. Right.
I was like, oh.
you should have done it like Jens Schoenfeld on the April's 1st, the April's Fool's Day. Nobody believed him, so there was no pressure.
Yeah.
You're probably right, but the other problem was somehow the manufacturer screwed up this board.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah, it's screwed up. It's actually right now it's a prop. Theoretically, it is fully working board, but somehow the manufacturer screwed that up, and I said like, what if? Send that to me. And they kind of almost refund the whole money for that. So,
that's why a lot of these, I know Gideon with his 64
Ultimate 64.
He's doing it he's making very small batches because of just that sort of thing. Because the manufacturers can goof it up, and this way, if he gets them in batches of 100, he can check them, and if there is a screw up, then it's not like he just spent thousands of dollars getting all these boards made,
Well, you just could make it. You just could take it to your advantage. You could say like, now with funny virus, just like the original 128.
Yeah, exactly. Don't open it, for God's sake! Don't open it.
Yeah, it also looks like a 128.
Yeah.
So people would say, "Wow, it's looking like 85." Yeah.
So this is actually pretty. If you've sent it to the manufacturers, this is actually pretty good along into the prototyping phase. This is beyond just planning. Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, from the pictures, I would say, "Hey, take my money. I will get one."
Yeah.
Actually, the funny thing is, I got like 10 or 12 emails wo stand, take my money.
yeah, like I said.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, you're like, sure.
or do I take pre-orders? I was like, dude, it's not even ready. It's not even done.
Nothing to pre-order. Yeah.
You want also the pre-order. I mean, I will not probably start the pre-order if I have absolutely great working prototype. There is also a lot of optimization what I must make.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But you know, the community goes a strange way anyway. I mean, you know, the first 100 Ultimate 64, one of them resold it on eBay.
Oh, yeah.
$1,200.
And somebody
like,
bought it. Someone bought it.
So I mean, if you make a limited quantity of it, yeah, I mean, probably sure, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but Gideon is not. He's just making it in
small batches.
limited amounts, and then you get the next round. You know, like the Ultimate 64, like the Ultimate 1541.
I like how the guy that sold that he intentionally blurred out all the serial numbers and stuff, probably because he didn't want Gideon to know who it was that was selling it.
Probably.
But yeah, I mean, it's really kind of a cool time in the 64 and 128 scene, because there's a lot of stuff in just the last couple of years. A lot of really cool stuff coming out. You know, aside from the 64 Reloaded 1 and 2, there's the Gideon's thing. This
Ultimate 64, yeah.
Right, the 128 Remastered, which looks awesome, and I would totally get one. There's more SD to IEC devices than you can count. There's more Wi-Fi modems than I have time to review. I got 7 of them sitting here. It's ridiculous. There's all these things coming out, and we're at a point now where we can do this, where we can start reproducing some of this stuff. We have the technology. There's an Amiga 500 replacement similar to this, where it's the board and you have to pop give it your own chips. There's also the little MIST computers, but I don't believe in that. The 64 is out, which is, again, it's emulator based, but it's still a thing that is out. It's just a really cool time for all this stuff to be out and to be involved in this, because there's lots of things to spend your money on.
Oh yeah.
Lots of things to make sure I'm still poor.
I know that feeling. I already know the price for the fully assembled prototype. It's not funny.
No.
But I hope you got enough money in your bag.
Well, but you can also, there's also, this is one of those instances where there hasn't been crowdfunding or anything. You haven't been, you could easily turn this around and do a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo campaign, and I'm sure.
Kickstarter and so on stuff. I really don't like this. I think those guys not all, but the most of it, they going after money, only the money.
Yeah.
And if I would say I make it only for the money. I would say, well, I am done. Yeah, have it.
Right.
Whatever. But I'm kind of not that guy. I want to do it right.
Well, I mean, of course, there are also projects where people did it different. For example, the Aquanox Deep Descent, they just wanted a part of the money via Kickstarter to make sure to see if there's enough interest in it, and the rest was paid by the publisher. So, but of course, you could use it as a backup system, so you wouldn't have to put in your own money, and then you would get kind of a refund for all your prototype work. But of course, I understand, because a lot of Kickstarters and Indiegogo actually never turn into reality, and suddenly people are gone with the money. That unfortunately happens also sometimes.
Right. It also
that you never get your stuff. It
also opens you up to a lot of. It makes it so that this is now you're now on the hook to do this. Like right now, if you'd changed your mind tomorrow, you could do that, and there's nothing, that's okay. If you decided, I don't want to do this, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you've collected a ton of money, then you're on the hook to do it for real. And if you don't, then people are going to be
mad.
They're going to be outside your house with torches and pitchforks.
As
we've seen with the
probably
the ZX Vega Plus, which is in its 9th year of nonsense.
Yeah, well, the Vega Plus is a different beast here because it's actually the first crowdfunding project that was successfully sued.
Yeah. And now they're talking about releasing. Well, we'll do that in the news section. We don't have to do it.
Well, it's always interesting talking to an engineer, as you can see here. It's funny.
Yeah, and I'm on board. I like this idea a lot. I would totally, absolutely get this.
Interestingly, I saw, Peter, on your Twitter, you were making jokes about people being nasty to you because on the pictures you had plastic fake coolers.
So I did like an alpha design from the heatsinks itself, and I was like, it will be probably cool put it on them to show people how it would look like later on. And people like, this you can't cool ICs with PLA. And I was like, dude, really?
It's just a picture.
It is also a prototype. It stands. It's written 2 times.
Yeah, right. You also can't cool a thing with a dumb cardboard shield with a pin bent down to touch a chip. That doesn't do anything either. But Commodore did it.
Yeah, but the Commodore put the cardboard into with the foil, the metal foil, to meet German regulations for shielding.
But even just with if it's the metal shield, they just had that little finger stick down and touch a chip. It does nothing.
A tiny bit. A really tiny bit.
It does a tiny bit because compared to my bread bins, the ones with the metal shielding never died of heat on my side at least. And I'm using them at Gamescom each year, and they are running 8 hours for 5 days each day. So never broke any. So I have been lucky here either, or it's helping a bit indeed. I don't know.
Well, but I mean, you could also say that I used to have these machines with no heat sink on it at all running in 90-degree weather, and they never overheated or anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's right. I mean, they weren't meant to be, they were designed to not necessarily need a heat sink. That wasn't a thing that they really thought about. They put it on the Vic afterwards just to kind of just because. But you could probably get away with not running any heat sinks on them. But
I mean, when I look my C chips with a heat sink, it gets hot.
Oh yeah,
it gets really hot.
Yeah, I put heat sinks on every chip in there, even the ones that didn't need it. And yeah, if you're running the thing and you touch that heat sink, it's 1,000 degrees, so it's doing something. But I mean, theoretically, the chip could run forever at that temperature and not die, or it could die tomorrow.
Yeah, but if you put one of it, then it could probably get a longer service life.
Right.
Yeah, that's also the problem, aging, because the ICs they age. I mean, the first 128 was released in 85. I mean, that's a floppy 33 years.
Yeah.
And hopefully this prototype also runs for 33 years when I got one.
Also, the idea was the heatsinks to get as much height as possible for maximizing the cooling performance.
Right.
Interesting. So it's kind of a heat pipes thing.
No heat pipes, but the size also. I actually I must recalculate that to get the proper heat dissipation numbers.
Interestingly, so there's actually some math involved. Okay.
Get some liquid cooling in there.
Probably you could.
And I wonder, on some of them you put in a hole in the middle. What is that for?
Where do you
in the coolers? In the coolers, you put in a hole.
You also see the holes on the board itself. This is also the stand or the mount for the coolers.
Okay.
This is always between the chips.
I see. Okay.
And at the ROM side or the SID side is one between.
Oh yeah, of course, makes sense. I mean, if you can cover more than one, why not making it a bigger one? Yeah, that makes sense. Oh my God! I mean, I'm really thrilled because compared to the C64 that was sold 17 million, the Commodore 128 was only sold for 5.8 million units. So that's quite a difference, So
and it was such a cool. The 128 is such a cool machine, and I've said it a couple of times where if you're using Geos, the 128 is what you need. Geos on the 64 is,
slow.
Yeah, it's even with. I mean, I've got more than one drive. I've got the 512K RAM expansion. I've got, all the stuff that you would need, and it's still painful to use Geos on a 64. On the 128 in 80 columns, Geos flies. It feels like a real solid operating system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if you want to do something like that with and actually use Geos, the 128 is what you need to use. If you want to do anything that and again, like I said before, when I updated my system, this is back in 96, I think, the 128 was what I upgraded to, and I actually used it into 128 mode for almost all the time for like 5 years, and it is a huge upgrade over the 64, but it never got the recognition and the attention that the 64 had.
Well, Commodore was too late with that.
Right, exactly, right. They were trying to figure out how do we stretch out the 8-bit line a little bit more. Well, we'll do this and we'll release this. But at that point, a lot of people had moved on to other things, and the 128 never got the support and the recognition that it could have made it awesome. And anything that brings it back and brings attention back to it and expands on it like this is potentially providing a motivation to even make more 128 stuff. If you know what I mean, because it makes it a much more viable platform again, because it's like, here's new boards with that you can use, and you have 128 compatibility with stuff, and it makes it something that can become I don't want to say popular, but can become interesting to people again.
Mm-hmm.
CPM, no one cares about that. But
actually, I got a couple of emails about CPM.
So, as AJ said, you don't have any problem to change your mind now because you didn't go with crowdfunding. But tell me, I would be very, very, very sad if you decide tomorrow to not do it anymore, because now I'm totally thrilled to have this board with me, and I have to say, one of the best things I I find about the Ultimate 64 is like, oh, there's a bug in it. Oh, no problem. There's a patch. Just put it on a thumbnail drive and put it in your USB port, and then update your C64. Hey, bug fix.
Did you get yours yet?
What?
Did you get yours yet?
If I get what?
Did you get yours yet? Your Ultimate?
Sure.
Oh,
sure.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that in the intro. Forgot about that.
Nice. Yeah. So I don't know. Despite it's not an FPGA based solution you do, Peter, do you actually plan to insert some kind of updating it if people find bugs in it in a way?
I mean, that would be kind of catastrophic for me.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that, because this is mostly a hardware thing. It's not. There's not a software fix for a bug.
It's completely a logic level problem then.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how Jens Schoenfeld is doing it, but Jens Schoenfeld in the Mark II, which is also a hardware replacement, he's allowing updates. I mean, he never released any updates yet.
He has. I think that he is doing. While it is largely a logic replacement, there is custom FPGA stuff on the board for lower level things.
Maybe that's
those the little flat chips that are stuck throughout the thing. Mm-hmm. They handle some of the circuitry and whatnot that would be, I don't know what it would look like on the original board, but that I think is what would be updated. Just gate arrays and crap like that.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting question.
I don't actually know what a gate array is, but I just use that word.
Okay. We are not hardware engineers.
No.
So anyway, Peter, is there any bug in the 128 that you want to get rid of?
The VDC has, I think, 2 register bugs. That is already solved. I think it's $12 and $13, but I am not really sure. Other major bugs I didn't know about. Only about this one, or maybe the video output from the VDC yellow.
Oh,
that is probably somehow freaking out people.
Yeah, I mean the big disadvantage is with the 128, as AJ mentioned, if you want to connect it to a PC, you can only do the 80 columns at black and white. Mm-hmm. So I guess one of the reasons will be for people they can put it on a big screen. Without losing color.
There's a dude I know, he sells it on eBay that sells. I mean, you can get the components and make your own converter, so you can plug it into a VGA monitor. But there's a guy that sells these things with a case and everything, which does it pretty well. But even then, there's some weirdness. Like the colors aren't quite. I think like yellow is brown or some nonsense like that. It's not quite perfect.
It's not dark yellow.
Right.
It's brown.
Right. Yeah.
That's the issue.
Right. So.
But I think I kind of theoretically fixed that. I hope.
You hope.
Cool.
Okay.
I hope. I see that if I have a assembled unit, then I'm at the testing.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the first batch and the second batch of the DTV, the European versions and also the American versions. They had actually a color bug, so that the color white would be wrong, and then you wouldn't be able to read anything in summer games in the menu because the colors were off, and you actually had to use a poke.
Reason not to play summer games.
You're the only guy on the planet hating summer games. That's amazing. Everybody else loves it, you know. All right. So yeah, it's good to know. It's good to know. It's good to know. Yeah. So are you planning to release more info on it?
I mean, the Forum 64 community asked to get updated, and I was like, okay, I could weekly add a change log or something like that by end of the week, what I've done,
right,
where I'm at, and something like that.
Yeah,
English, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's no information in English, and all the information the English community got is Google translated German stuff, you know.
I know.
You know, and so I was talking to people and said like, well, why don't we invite him to the podcast so he can talk in English and explain to us what he's working on actually, because there's no information in English out at all, which of course I understand because you are from the German part of Switzerland, so German would probably come first, yeah, you know, people instantly hit on that and used Google Translate, and then they, you know, some stuff got wrong, rumors got started, you know, all this thing that's happening then. So I like to hear from the person myself rather than some Google translated information, you know.
Actually, that's also the reason why I adding the change log. Okay, is they change logs. In English, that people who read can see what I've done, and so. Right.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
Let's hope I can get one under my Christmas tree this year.
I am on board. I want one. And that's going quite a bit because I have no, you know, like the 64 Reloaded and the 64 Ultimate. I don't need them because I've got a 64 and I'm cool with that. But the 128, yeah, I would totally, absolutely get one of those.
Wow.
Yeah.
You make me blushing.
Yeah, and it you passed the Scene World interview penetration test.
Yes.
You know
the what? The penetration test?
Yeah, penetrated by questions.
That sounds a lot dirtier than I think you meant it to be.
No, I didn't. I didn't mean
it sounds just wrong. It sounds just wrong.
I meant it penetrated by questions.
Ah, yes.
You know?
It still sounds wrong.
Yeah, you've passed the Scene World Aztec Challenge.
Okay, good to know. Well, so from my side, this was everything I had to ask actually.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we can find this at the website is the128rm.com. I think I said that right.
Yes.
You can also find it on Forum 64. Was it? That's where there's just a general discussion of what's happening with it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And also Bill Hurt was in the forum. I was like, oh, wait.
Like, oh boy.
Really? Really?
Yeah, you know. Good. Well, so thanks, Peter, for taking the time.
Absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
No, I'm still nervous.
Great. And hey, you helped AJ how to fix this 128.
Yes.
So wonderful.
Yeah.
So
have fixed ?
Well, yeah. We'll have a little update for that. I'll do an update episode on that, and I'll show my progress of trying to fix it.
Well, now you have contact
with the
C128 helpline email.
Yeah.
kind of helpline.
If it doesn't work and I don't fix it, then I can just get the 128RM and stick it in there instead.
Yeah. I mean, you have already the chips on it.
Exactly. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Also, I mean, I could say something, but you guys probably wanna know about the size.
Oh yes.
Of course, it is the flat mainboard size from the C64. But when you have the build in front of you, you probably see the frame of it with 45 degrees of mesh or something like that. This, you could probably cut this part of the board. The board would still work.
Oh.
This is that compressed.
Okay.
Okay, interesting.
Because I had a problem with the smaller C64 board on the very left side. There's a CIA chip.
Right.
And I accidentally touched it a couple of times while it's on, and it kind of freaked me out.
Okay.
You're talking about on the picture there. There's like a little like hash marks on the bottom.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
A bracket there on the bottom that can. So it's actually small. It can be smaller than what's actually being produced.
It can be way smaller. Yes. I mean, I also planning like adding the schematics and the documentation like for free away.
Oh, so it's going to be sort of an open source sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing what I probably don't wanna publish is the PCB layout. Or probably maybe sometimes, I don't know. But the schematics and the documentation, I probably will give it away for free because why not? I mean.
And yeah, that makes an interesting thing because you have sort of the SD to IEC. It was done similar. The schematics and documentation. It's open source. Anyone can make them, and
the ultimate spin set.
Right.
No, not the ultimate spin set, but the original spin set is also copied by a lot of people because they released all this stuff in public domain.
But so you end up with 1,005 different variations on it, and that's really interesting because it gives people the motivation to create these, and you can get improvements and changes and additions from outside. So this version here might offer something that this version doesn't, and it makes it kind of saturates the market more with it. It becomes more of a really mainstream thing. Then that would be very cool.
I mean, when there is a guy there will remake my board. Good luck with that. I am already a year on it, and that's a long time. Yeah, a long, frustrating time.
Well, I hope this interview motivates you to stick with it.
Yeah, I think it's
no.
Yeah, no, he's decided to quit now, and he's like, maybe this isn't such a good idea. He's it's like maybe I should just go make a sandwich instead.
Yeah.
Only takes 5 minutes
and just forget it complete about it.
Yeah.
I guess
I don't know. What's that?
So thanks a lot, Peter, for taking your time. It was a pleasure.
Not a problem. I kind of solved before the podcast some major issues.
Oh,
okay.
At the power delivery, I have absolutely no place for that.
I see.
Absolutely no freaking place for that. And I have like Well, the 3.3 volts, I can put that something like to the SE2 IEC. It doesn't need much. 5 volt rail is big. 9 volts is okayish because it only uses the 8580. But the 12 volt, it's a kind of tricky.
Right.
While the amp uses also a lot. Wow.
Okay.
Glad to hear you figured it out.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing this come out because I really, in all seriousness, not just podcast talk. I'm actually really jazzed about seeing this come out.
He will make pictures on his Facebook where he doesn't thrill in it, hopefully.
No. He makes a couple of more holes.
For ventilation, yeah.
Need ventilation.
Yeah.
And this time we add fans.
Yeah.
For our fans, yeah.
Need more holes.
Yeah.
No.
Stickers
All
at
right.
5 horsepower apiece.
Whoa.
All right.
Going about 5,000 CFM each.
Well.
All right. Well, thank you for sitting with us. This has been awesome.
Still nervous.
Thanks a lot, Peter.
No problem.
We will let you know as soon as we have released it.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Maybe we can do a follow up down the road when it's
It's
produced.
done-ish?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And see how it's coming along and how it's been received and whatnot. And yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Peter. Okay.
No problem.
So, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.